Alright, so today's movie review is Fantasia from 1940 from Disney, and it's an animated film. So now let me show you the plot synopsis from Criticless. Walt Disney's timeless masterpiece is an extravaganza of sight and sound. See the music come to life, hear the pictures burst into song, and experience the excitement that is Fantasia over and over again. Alright, so now let me get into my thoughts on the plot. So this plot, and this movie in general, is a package film with 8 animated segments compiled together to make an overarching storyline. They're not necessarily working together, these shorts. In fact, more so, they're celebrating different classical musical pieces and they just have fun animation on top of them. It's put together, and the intent of it was so that the common man could see these, big, important music, right, on the big screen. And so let me tell you about each of the 8 shorts. So the first one was Toccata and Fugue in D minor by Johann Sebastian Bach. This is the one that starts out with the musicians and they're doing different instruments. There's cool color and background and whatnot. That one I gave a 3 out of 5. It's an interesting concept, but it's definitely not the most exciting of the shorts in this film. The next is the Nutcracker Suite by Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. Totally butchering that. I love Tchaikovsky, by the way. This has mushrooms and other creatures and kind of more fantasy kind of stuff mixed together. Very interesting. 3 out of 5. I don't love it, but I will say an interesting fact. So the theme song to the channel, I picked from Tchaikovsky. I picked it from one of his more famous songs, and I used like the last few beats of it for the theme song because I love his music. He also did one that you hear all the time from Swan Lake. That's a great one too. Yeah, the short's okay, but the music is fantastic. Alright, next is The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Paul Dukas. 5 out of 5. This is probably the most famous short from it. It's Mickey Mouse. He's putting on his hat, his master's hat, right? And it's just beautifully animated, beautifully put together, and I just love the story. He's trying to find a simpler way to do the tasks he's been assigned, and just how it just spirals out of control. Some people have talked about it being kind of a cautionary tale of like implementation of AI and different tools like that. How if you're not careful, it could overrun you and, in Mickey's case, almost kill you. So, yeah, pretty interesting thought there. Alright, next is The Rite of Spring by Igor Stravinsky. This is the one with dinosaurs in it. I actually really like it. It's a very interesting, the earth being built up and the music fitting along with it. I give it a 4 out of 5. Excellent short. Alright, next is the intermission, is also where we meet the soundtrack. And this is where Deems Taylor, he's talking and showing off sound effects. I didn't like this short as much. I gave it a 2 out of 5. I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. It felt like filler, for sure. Alright, next is the Pastoral Symphony by Ludwig van Beethoven. This is one where there's Greek mythology. You got, what are they called? Centaurs and different mythological creatures running around. It's a fun one. I like the music here, especially animation, whatever. 4 out of 5. Alright, next is Dance of the Hours by Amilcare Ponchielli. This is the one that has a ballet with ostriches and elephants and hippopotamuses and just all these different animals doing dainty ballet. It's one of my favorites. 5 out of 5. It's so funny and catches me off guard every time, and it's just so funny. Because then you hear the music, you're like, oh yeah, it's this one. It's really, really funny. Probably the funniest short overall. Alright, then the last one is Night on Bald Mountain by Modest Mussorgsky and Ave Maria by Franz Schubert. This is the one where we start out with the demon on the Bald Mountain, and he's reaching his hands over. He's trying to put darkness all across the town, and then there's little demons flying around. He's burning them, eating them, all of that. And then it all breaks when the sun rises. and you have all these nuns and whatnot with candles singing Ave Maria. 5 out of 5. It's my favorite, one of my favorite ones, I should say. I don't know if it's my favorite overall, but it's definitely a great finisher and great animation and just a beautiful story told through music. So 5 out of 5 for sure. All right, so overall, that brings my plot score to 3.8 out of 5, which I'm rounding to a 4 out of 5. So overall, the plot, 4 out of 5, great shorts all around. All right, next for acting. In this case, because these are cartoons and there's not a lot of real voice actors or real actors, I'll be talking about the characterizations. So, what I mean by that, I thought they were all unique and fit very well with the music that they were assigned to. Creative, very interesting. You could definitely see the passion that the animators had in trying to make the designs work with the music. I love it. Excellent. Deems Taylor as the MC. I thought he was a bit dry at times, but I think he's very interesting. It's too bad that the original audio that he recorded is no longer around. So they had Disney legend Corey Burton, who you've definitely heard his voice in Disneyland, and he voices a lot of characters nowadays that are more classical characters that the original actors have passed on. He's very good at impressions. He very well fits here. It kind of makes it feel like a Disney feel, but I'd be curious to see what the original Deems Taylor's voice sounds like. I think that's a shame that it's missing. So anyway, overall, 5 out of 5. Alright, so next is the set design. So in this case, I'll be talking about the backgrounds and the layouts of the shorts. 5 out of 5. The Sorcerer's Apprentice especially is an incredible example. Like the scene here where he's being spun around in the water. I also love the backgrounds in Night in Bald Mountain. Those looked amazing. Overall, the backgrounds and all that looked really excellent. Just really well structured, really well put together. Again, the character designs fit very well with the music. 5 out of 5. Alright, cinematography. So similarly, I'll just be strictly talking about animation. 5 out of 5. I've already mentioned it. Very cinematic, very superb. The Night in the Bald Mountain is one of my favorite ones, with the way he's moving and his, his hands and whatnot, and the juxtaposition of the darkness and the light around him is really interesting, really beautifully put together. I also think that the pastoral one with the Greek gods and whatnot, that one was also cool, and just overall, excellent animation. Some of the best that Disney had ever done. 5 out of 5. Alright, the music. So the music, all of it is being orchestrated by Leopold Stokowski and the Philadelphia Orchestra. Excellent. 5 out of 5. The music here is so timeless, so great. And I know he didn't write any of them, of course, right? Those people have been long gone. You got Bach, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, all the famous ones. Just all around, amazing music. A lot of the songs from here I've added to my playlist because they just sound so good. And it is one of the films that has helped me with my interest in classical music. So yeah, 5 out of 5 for sure. Alright, so overall, my score is a 4.8 out of 5, which is a 96% on Criticless. So now let me break down my Criticless score here. Graphic language, none. Violence, there's some deaths of dinosaurs and demons burning in hell and whatnot. It's pretty gruesome, but not gory or anything like that. Nudity, sexual content. There's some brief nudity with the female demons. They're very creepy looking. But that's about it. And it's also implied that all the centaurs are, mating and whatnot. So yeah. But nothing is explicit. It's definitely done in a very tame and very, I guess, tasteful way. Alright, political bias, none. Family friendly. Yeah, I think kids would actually really like the visuals in this, especially in Sorcerer's Apprentice. It is 2 hours. I don't know if kids would like that length. They might like a couple of the shorts and then maybe move on from it. But then again, my wife, this was one of her favorite Disney movies growing up. So it really just depends on the kid. Yeah. Entertainment value, very entertaining. I love the Dance of the Hours with the Ostriches. That one makes me laugh so much every time. And just overall, they did a really good job of having the music mixed with really interesting characters and storylines. So overall, would I recommend this movie? Absolutely. This is a piece of art. One of the best Disney movies ever. I don't think it's really been topped. Now, I like a lot of their films. I like A Sleeping Beauty. That's another beautifully orchestrated and constructed film. Tchaikovsky music. Let's see, what else? Cinderella is another great one. Yeah, there's just a lot of really well put together films that they did. But this one is definitely top 3. Top 2 even. It kind of switches between Sleeping Beauty and this film for me. I like both of them a lot. So absolutely, I recommend this. This is a piece of art, and I think more people should see it. And I will add, I hope someday we do get the original theatrical release of it. The version that we have today was made in, I want to say it was 1998, maybe a little bit earlier. It doesn't have some of the characterizations that some may deem, super racist and whatnot. Like there's I can't remember her name, but it's a character, like a centaur, I believe, that she's a very exaggerated caricature of a black woman. Very, like the big lips and whatnot. That was kind of commonplace with a lot of animated cartoons at the time. And she kind of has this subservient role. I actually had a debate about this with my friend Evan a couple years ago about how, I get why they did it because they don't want to taint the image that they're trying to put out there. But at the same time, I feel like saying it didn't happen is just as bad as it did happen, if not worse. Because it's revisionist history, right? It's censoring and it's hiding something about you. So I hope someday we'll get a complete release of it. I don't know if that ever will happen. Disney is not the greatest with physical releases, and some of the films that they've changed that they've never released the original of, like I believe it's Make My Music with the Martins and the Koi short. It's a great short, but I don't think that will ever see the light of day again. So this may be the version that we'll have. This is probably as good as it gets. But anyways, those are my thoughts overall on Fantasia from 1940, and that concludes today's movie review.